Well, do you wanna dive in here and tell
Yeah,
us a
for
little
sure.
bit about kind of who you are, your background, to set the precedence for the rest of the podcast, so the audience
Sure.
knows who you
Sure.
are?
Sure. My name's Mark, and I consider myself a local South Floridian, and I've been doing multifamily real estate for over 4 decades. Bought my first deal when I was going into my junior year in college.
Amazing.
I come from a real estate family. Grandparents, both grandfathers. Mother was a commercial real estate broker, and she actually sold me my first deal. And I've learned a lot in life. I've been knocked down. I've been beaten up, and I've had some great partners. I've had some pretty crappy partners. And I will tell you, there is nothing like the real estate business. It's the greatest business there is. You can be broke on a Sunday and find a deal on a Tuesday and figure out how to make money on a Thursday. And you can really set your own tone to what you're doing. If you know what you're doing, if you're good at it, when you do make money for people, people will always come back to you to do business with you. And there's no other investment that allows you the ability to leverage something and to have the cash flow and to have the depreciation based on the IRS tax code.
Absolutely.
So that's my simple segue.
Simple segue, right? So much to unpack there. Now, I think you mentioned being broke and then being able to find this money with real estate and then turn it for a large profit, right? I think that that's something that you do for other people, is you help them, right? You kind of coach them on how to do this and achieve the success that you've achieved, right?
Yeah. So we are teaching people who have a FICO score in the low 500s, and we are teaching people who have very little capital how to acquire real estate, reposition it, and refinance it, and then do it again. And in the hopes that they will grow a portfolio, that they will change their life path, they will change their children's children. And we do it in our school for the mere cost of less than a cup of coffee a day. We charge $47 for school. We do have some programs that are more expensive, that we give much more in-depth training and much more personalized training, where you have actually access to me on a daily basis, texting, phone calls, and so forth. But we have really grown from nowhere, from when we actually, myself and Christian, who's my producer, filmed and posted our first video. It was a reaction video to the amazing real estate home run hitter, Grant Cardone. He is the master of the universe. Just ask him. He has 47 planes. He has 4,922 different watches. And he's the greatest real estate developer ever. Quite frankly, I do know him, and I think he's a pretty good guy. He's a really good parent. He's become a little bit obnoxiously ostentatious, over the top. Don't have the same philosophy on acquisitions that he does. I think you, in the real estate space, you actually earn your keep. You just don't buy a class AAA asset at a 2 cap unless your money's free, which seems to be pretty free. But there's some pretty amazing real estate developers here in South Florida. They come from all over the world. Locally, you have the related companies, which is George Perez. Now his son has taken over. But you have some amazing, you have the Martins, which David now Martin runs Terra. The father was Pedro. I think it was Pedro. Another great developer. You have the Kotzies. You have the guys from BH2, BH3, the famous Jerry Kaufman, who is one of the most amazing developers. The quietest family, which is one of the wealthiest families here in South Florida, the Milton family. I think they're the largest apartment owner here in Dade County. And there's a lot of really good people. My particular idol who recently passed away, his name was Tibor Hollow. I think his son runs this company. He did a lot of development to shape the skyline. And you have such great value and heritage here in South Florida, and people overlook it. People don't realize that Miami's great if you want to come here and party and blow off some steam and go to a nice restaurant. But we have the arts. We have Art Basel. Okay, we have such amazing architecture. We have, we're like a tube of toothpaste if you look at it, because on the West Coast you have the Everglades, and on the East Coast you have the ocean, and it's only going to go north, and everything in its path, whether it's old or gentrified, is going to be redeveloped. So everybody knows that Wynwood is a happening place. Well, guess what? Wynwood was the garment district and a bad neighborhood. And I took a gap year after my freshman year of college, 1979, and I sold towels and T-shirts at the Hialeah Flea Market on top of bartending and working for my uncle's real estate portfolio. And it was the best time of my freaking life.
It's crazy. I got started in clothing. I had a clothing company before I went and bought my first property at 20 years old. And
nice.
I got all the Wisconsin Badger basketball players to wear it. And then next thing you know, the Green Bay running back is wearing it because there was a cheerleader that I went to high school with that was friends with him. So she would give him clothes, and then I would just get a boatload of art orders from Shopify. And that's how I made my first couple bucks. So kind of similar to you here. But you've done, so if you want to continue that story, that's great. But you said you've done 25,000 units?
Yes.
Okay, so we're talking some credibility.
Well, it's a round number. It's actually more.
Sure.
But you lose track, when you've done a couple hundred deals, and quite frankly, that's the number of units that I've either owned, managed, or developed, or done conversions on. But there's 3 other people that I have mentored, and they have done themselves 25 to 30,000 units.
Wow.
And my old accountant was a good friend of mine, was my accountant. His partner died and he had a brain aneurysm. He died and got paid out on his key man policy, and he asked to join me. And this was around right after Hurricane Andrew, and we bought a bunch of stuff together. And eventually he wanted to have his own identity, and he left, and he took our company. He renamed it. And if you're driving on Biscayne Boulevard in Adventura, you'll see the name of the company. It's called Adveneer. His name is Steve, a great guy. Used to, in his spare time, teach catechism at the local church.
What is catechism?
Catechism is the study of Christianity.
Okay.
Just an amazing guy. And I used to do a lot of things with him, ski with him, and so forth. He's a grandfather now. I think he's retired.
Okay.
I don't have the retirement gene in my body. I did it for a while. It just doesn't work.
Sure.
So
mentioning that there, it seems like you're kind of transitioning in your life to helping other people create the success that you have. Is that what I'm understanding?
So we posted this video. It was a reaction to Grant. Grant said something super stupid, which he does to get views and to generate people into his fundraising operation, which is what he does. So he tries to be ultra controversial, and that works. So because
he almost advertised on Pornhub.com.
Really?
100%. So
that's a crazy story. Share that with me.
Do you know Alan, his head marketing guy?
No.
Okay, so I went to an event one time. It was I paid 10 grand, right? You go and you sit in a room with a bunch of other people that pay 10 grand, high quality people. So you would think, because you paying 10 grand, right? Now, he taught me how to raise capital, so I'm super thankful for him, and I understand kind of where you're going, his controversy, how he captures that, turns it into this big marketing thing, which I see, like it seems like you're starting to do that as well, and you're seeing a lot of success with the reactions. I think it's amazing, by the way. Like it's super cool. But we're in there, and he's like, man, I don't know if I should say this, but the most visited site are porn sites. And his marketer, Alan, comes on, yeah, we thought about doing this, but we didn't think it would align with the brand. So he kind of said that, and I'll never forget that moment because I'm sitting there like, wait, this is so crazy.
So he wants to buy high-end real estate, but he wants to raise his money from a funnel that sells porno. Okay.
Now, he didn't do it.
Good to his credit, because he is a family man. I know he is into Scientology. Have no idea what that is. But I know, and this is a funny thing because he's supposed to be with this big Scientologist, and who's the most famous person in Scientology? The actor Tom Cruise.
Yes.
Okay, and that's why his second marriage didn't work out, because he was trying to push, I think her name was Katie Holmes, into this. And, you know, women have to be a certain way and a little more demure and so forth. And, you know, she's an actress and she's very successful in her own right. So I think that didn't work out for Tom, which happens to be one of my favorite actors. Still does his own stunts, which is crazy, the stunts he does.
Yes.
And somebody asked him in an interview, and I saw the interview, do you know this guy, Grant Cardone? And he said, never met him, never spoke to him. And Grant's supposed to be this super high guy in Scientology?
So I heard that Sherry Hamilton is Grant's COO, I think. Do you know Sherry at all?
No.
So I heard that Sherry got Grant into Scientology, and within the hierarchy, Sherry's a little bit higher than Grant. I don't know if this is true. This is from a former employee that worked with him that I heard this from. So I don't know, but that's interesting. So Tom Cruise, never heard of him, and Grant's this big guy.
Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
So do you think that he's using the Scientology as like a ploy, or where do you think this is all coming from?
I don't have the time to give it thought.
Okay.
You know, I do see some of the deals that he buys. We have actually bid on a few at a much lower basis, because our opinion of value is much lower than Grant's, and our return threshold is lower. We want a higher cap rate. His is lower than ours, so he can pay more, because that's what drives price. Mm-hmm. So I lost my train of thought.
You're good.
So that's what happens when you get to be 64.
No worries. We can edit, cut, flip, flop, whatever. It doesn't matter. So an interesting thing that I sit down and analyze when Grant's buying these deals, right? It sounds like he's paying an insane amount, right? He's also making, I think, and don't quote me, but his sales training, right? Mm-hmm. Are you familiar with Cardone University?
I'm not. I mean, I know he has Cardone University.
I think he's pulling in like $10 million a month off that. I don't know if that's true or not, but when I was there, I ran some numbers, calculations, and I talked to some of his team, and I think he's pulling in multi-million dollars a month off of just that training alone. And he has various other businesses. Now he's got Cardone Ventures with Brandon Dawson, which is kind of more like the coaching, taking your business from X to X, like making $1 zillion, right? Yeah. So for me, I look at this and I'm like, okay, he's probably putting a ton of his own money into these deals now.
No,
he's not.
He does not.
Interesting.
No, so he uses a platform. It's called Regulation A, Tier 2. It is approved by the SEC. It was under the Jobs Act that President Obama created back when he was president. And what it did is it changed the suitability requirement from an accredited investor to an investor that could invest in anything. And under the suitability requirement. The investor can put up to 10% of their gross income into a deal. So if a guy makes $30K, he can put $3,000 into one of Grant's deals.
Okay.
And Grant started doing this and putting this money together, and he has become the Wizard of Oz at raising this money. He has become the Wizard of Oz on doing this. He is amazing, and he just did a debt fund. He claims he raises $300 million on a weekend, and but he does also something that's very unique. He does what's called front running, and front running is legal by the SEC until obviously it's not legal because they can do whatever they want. And he buys a deal for, let's say, $1, and then he sells it into the fund for $1.25. And that 25 cents he puts in his pocket. And then he pays his return out of those proceeds. Now, I'm not in his office. I don't know how he does it, okay? He has, his partner is Ryan, okay?
Seco?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a smaller partner, but he's his partner.
He started as like the private jet pilot to
Right.
get Grant around, and that was kind of the introduction. I love Ryan's story, like coming in there, doing all that stuff to show that value.
So, yes, he does have a massive organization for events, for training, and all this stuff. And I think his real estate operation is probably 15 to 20 people. So I think that's what it is.
Andres, I'm familiar with his lead investor relations guy, too. I like Andres a lot. Now, I think this brings up a good point that I don't think is talked about a lot is a lot of, and maybe I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me what you think, please. I think a lot of fund managers will go and buy these properties, raising capital, etc. And like you said, sell the property to themselves, and then do all those other investors get their return, but then the property owner is now that sole individual.
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
So they do a split. There's the GP side and there's the LP side. Okay. So in those deals, Grant pays a 6% return for the money that you've put in. He pays it out monthly. Okay. And that's what people like. They want to see that 6% return. And then you get a percentage of the upside of the deal. But what's very clever about what Grant did is your money is locked up for a decade, for 10 years.
Okay.
You cannot request your money back. You cannot ask for your money back. If you want, you can sell your position to somebody else. There's really no secondary market for it. And when he was sued by some investor or some daughter of some investor. I don't really know. I don't think it had a whole lot of actual teeth to it. And people were like, "Oh, Grant's going down." I'm like, I don't think so. I don't think so. But he does overpay for his deals, but they are really good quality pieces of real estate.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. So they're gonna go up in value.
He's bidding against all the institutional investors. He said he
outbids the institutional investors.
Yeah, he's like, I will never buy a deal that the institutional. This is maybe 3-4 years ago, so he was already at the success he's at. He's like, I will never buy a deal where I'm the only bidder because that signals a problem to me. Like, why are other people not bidding on this? Because when he turns and goes to sell it or exit it or whatever the case may be, he's going to have those institutional investors coming right back and attacking those properties.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah, that's super interesting. Do you know Kevin Paffrath?
No. Who is he?
Okay, so he got in a lawsuit with Grant Cardone. And I studied Kevin Paffrath's, I guess.
Is this the bald-headed guy?
It's not the bald-headed guy.
That's Aaron. That's another guy.
Yeah, he
does like, he goes A-Rod or something. I don't know.
I don't know that guy.
I don't even have time to watch social media. So
sure.
I don't even watch my reels sometimes.
You just post it and let it go.
No, the guys posted, and they'll call me and they'll say this one's doing good. We just did one with my friend Daniel G. I actually think it's doing really well.
That's amazing.
So yeah.
So Kevin, though, this ties into Grant, right? So Kevin he has a bunch of different courses, and I bought his course, and I bought the YouTube growth course. Now Kevin got sued by Grant Cardone for going into the office. I think he was dressed as a gnome or something, like some wildly heinous thing. Grant sued him, and Kevin, off the back end of Grant's name in the conflict, right, became very, very, like, he's loaded now. Like 2 million subscribers on YouTube, was bashing Grant for a while. And I don't know whatever happened with the lawsuit, but Kevin Paffrath teaches conflict for growth on social media, kind of similar to Grant Cardone, for example.
Crazy.
And I think kind of where we're going here is like, there is going to be a lot of attention by talking about Grant and exposing this or exposing that. And we can kind of grow off of that. Is that a strategy that you like to implement, or like, is that something that you do?
This is so new.
Okay.
And going back to that first video that was posted on the April 16th, and it went viral. I think it's done. Guys, how many million is that done? 8 million?
Somewhere around there. Which one?
The Grant Cardone one?
Yeah.
That we filmed at Josh's? Oh, I thought Grant's was the most viewed. Yeah, that's the one, right? That was when he was talking about someone who makes $400,000 is a loser? Oh, no? Okay. Got it.
So you're doing this, maybe not intentionally, but you're driving massive
So we do
growth
this
from
video.
this.
I filmed with Christian. You know, it was actually a fun day. It was hot. And I'm driving back from Weston to the beach. And Christian calls me and he says, the video's blowing up. So I'm like, okay, what do you mean? We have malfunctions? He said, no, it's doing good. I'm like, oh, so that's what blowing up means, all right? Because I don't know any of this shit.
Yeah.
So he says, yeah, you know, and because it was Friday, I turned my phone off at sundown for Shabbat, and then I turn it back on an hour after sundown. So it's 25 hours, the whole cycle of Shabbat. So he said, it's going to be 1 million by the time you turn your phone back on. And he was right.
That's amazing.
And that video went insane. And we kind of caught like a hot streak. Mm-hmm. And we started to do well on TikTok. And then we slowed on TikTok. And then all of a sudden, we posted a video on Instagram. We weren't doing well at all on Instagram. We were like getting 1,200, 2,000 views on Instagram. And then driving to see my family on the West Coast, because most of my family from here all moved to Naples, Sanibel, Fort Myers. And I stopped to get gas at this gas station called Raceway. I think it's called Raceway.
Absolutely.
Because they have Krispy Kremes there.
Okay.
And I wanted some Krispy Kremes.
Sure.
So I filled up there, and I got some Krispy Kremes. And I was in the car with Gabriella, and I said to Gabriella, I said, have you checked the Instagram? I thought this post is blowing up. And she checked it, and she goes, wow. Since we crossed Alligator Alley, it went like 700,000 views. I'm like, this one's going to hit 1 million.
There you go.
And and that's the big one, right? Pronounced Herman's, like I was wearing a Hermes belt. And I said, I'm like, this would kind of be stupid and get a reaction, So guys, you can't even afford a Herman's belt. Now, people don't even know that there was a sporting goods store called Herman's that went out of business. So it's just fucking around, and it's become fun. But when I started this, I didn't really know that there were all these fake ass MFers,
followers, fake.
I'm trying not to. I'm trying not to swear.
You can swear if you want.
My kids are saying me, Dad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm trying not to swear, but there are all these, these fake ass gurus that teach these courses, and they are straight up full of crap. And there's a lot of them.
Like they haven't done what they're teaching.
They did a few deals. They decided they're going to make a course. Okay. You do 10 deals, you did 10 deals. You do 20, 30 deals, you start to become pretty good at it. You do 50 to 100 deals, it becomes second nature.
Or 25,000.
You do 200 to 350 deals, You do a deal where you buy 6,000 units, 16 different assets in one state, and you take it down all at once, then you know what you're doing, okay? When you build 47, 50, 60 stories of a concrete box, because that's all we build here, it's structural concrete. It's steel, it's concrete, and it's additives.
You can't fake that because the project's so big.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, these gurus would never be able to touch that.
And take my word for it. If you have the pre-sales, they're the greatest thing in the world in the state of Florida. If you're struggling through the sales process, you're going to get creamed. You're going to lose your shirt. You're going to get slammed. And I've been on both ends. So, and I love the new construction business. Right now, I don't know how all these deals are going to come out looking good in downtown.
Too much inventory?
There's a lot of inventory. Yeah,
That's what everyone's saying.
You have your real estate license, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you've seen inventory go up, and
Particularly in condos with the crisis right now.
yeah,
I have a viral video and only 700,000 views, but like I haven't hit 1 million like you have. But I just ripping on the condo crisis that's going on right now. Like fee increases, the reserves, the new laws.
I don't even know. After the Surfside disaster, and may all those people rest in peace. And by the way, that company that built that deal years ago in the 70s went bankrupt. And it's a natural effect that happens here in South Florida because concrete is porous. So sodium chloride will penetrate concrete, which is salt. You build on the water, okay? And then there's this encapsulated piece of the structural concrete. It's steel. And steel rots from the inside out. And that's where the structural loss of integrity happens in those buildings. So this was a tragedy, but it's probably saving more lives than it lost. Okay, the loss of one life is one too many. But all the new 40-year certifications that are required now.
Well overdue.
Yes.
This should have happened years and years and years and years ago.
So what's going to end up happening to these deals is people can't pay their condo fees. Smart developers that have a big bankroll will
100%.
end up decondominializing the building, moving people out, knocking it down for the dirt.
Absolutely.
And the dirt obviously has value, a tremendous amount of value on the ocean. So, you think about what Sunny Isles used to look like. I terribly missed the Rascal House up there. Great delicatessen up on, I think it was 170-something, 76th Street.
Meaning you bid on the property, but...
Well, no, the Rascal House was a great deli. They had best corned beef.
Oh, the deli, you said.
Delicatessen, yeah. It's actually on the west side of Collins Avenue. The disaster site, I've stopped and paid my respects a few times. Yeah. No, Surfside's an amazing market, but being on the ocean, living on the ocean, living here in South Florida, has an innate quality of life that unless you're here, you don't understand it. Living on the beach is a different mentality because you don't leave the beach that often. You typically stay on the beach. But when you come to the Gables, you make sure you're here at the right time and you're going to miss the traffic on the way back.
Absolutely.
Okay. So if you're getting your car serviced at the collection, you need to know what you're doing. Okay. Or you're going somewhere in the Gables, you want to go, have a steak or something good to eat. But, you have to be pragmatic. You have to plan.
Absolutely.
So,
Tom Brady flies in from Opelika, lands on a helicopter landing pad boat, and then takes a boat to his house in Indian Creek. And I'm walking. I went to Regatta, which is in Coconut Grove, the other day, and I'm walking past where all the boats are.
My friend is the general manager there.
That's crazy. I look to my left, and there's Tom Brady's little platform boat, and I'm like, no way. This is so cool. All those videos. That's always been my dream is get a helicopter, be able to avoid traffic. One of the things that I always say is avoiding traffic is one of the biggest flexes or I guess nice
Well,
luxuries.
I just learned what flexing is anyway.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the biggest.
That's
flexes
not one of the things that we do a lot of. So
Sure.
so yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So now, do you want to talk a little bit about some of your struggles? Because I think it's going to perform well with the audience on the struggling side of having lost a development or what you've learned throughout that process, kind of moving through here.
Yes, and I will tell you that in any time that we did perform poorly on a deal, we were undercapitalized. We bit off more than we could chew. We didn't have the right capital partner, or the capital partner that we had oversold who they were. So we work with family offices, with my family office, and we'll do joint ventures. And a lot of these family offices are great, but a lot of them, they are not exactly who they say they are.
Interesting.
You have to be very careful. You have to you have to vet your partner. In any deal, you make your money when you buy the deal, and you only realize the gain when you sell it. So when you're in the midst of doing really well, you think that everything is going to just continue to go up. That's when you have to have this aha moment when you say, okay, I'm going to put the brakes on, I'm going to hold on to my capital, and I'm going to be more methodical. When I was young, and all I did was print money when I got into the business. And in the late 80s, the markets kind of went a little sideways, and we had some losses. But at the same time, I was actually buying in Texas from the RTC, which is the Resolution Trust Corp. And the Resolution Trust Corp was what was created to hold the S&L, which is the Savings and Loan, not Saturday Night Live, the savings and loan banks that failed. I believe the biggest villain was a guy named John Keating. And we were able to buy a treasure trove of assets in the state of Texas for little to nothing down. They financed the deals. They literally handed you the keys. And you could actually run the properties and use the cash flow because they would give you a 6 or 12-month moratorium on debt service. This is the federal government. And you could build up your portfolio.
By meaning moratorium, you mean like you don't have to pay that debt service for a temporary period?
It's deferred and accrued, yeah.
Wow.
So when I was getting beat up in one area, I was buying on the other side, and it's like the stock business, you're dollar cost averaging. So I was dollar cost averaging down, and then I realized you never really reach for a deal. And any time that I actually reached for a deal, I lost. I lost on it.
So by reach for a deal, you mean basically underwrite it and have a very, I guess, good or opportunistic vision when that might not be the case.
All right, I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
Guy brings us a deal. We actually went and did a video on his deal. He wanted to show us his proof of concept. It was the worst freaking rehab I've ever seen. It's a guy I couldn't run away from fast enough. But I was introduced to him by a family member, and the family member is an amazing young man, and he's actually coming to work for Shapiro Capital, and he's going to be helping us with our Spanish side of our education business, because I didn't know this until, I guess, 2 weeks ago, that we actually have a huge Spanish following here in South Florida. I didn't realize we had a big following here in South Florida, and because it's all come from nowhere. And he showed us this deal. We were filming it. We were doing the numbers on the back of a napkin, and then we went and sat, and we went and had some Cuban food in a little place off of A Street called La Carreta, and it's been there forever. It's better, in my opinion, than going to Versailles, because Versailles is like touristy. This is not touristy.
Sure.
This is just like meat and potatoes, you know. You get good rice and beans. And I did the numbers with him, and he was basing his projections on everything in Wynwood, and it's in the flex area between downtown and Wynwood. It's that last little gap area where it's all slums, okay, and
Like Overtown?
it's on the fringe of Overtown.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So do you guys remember what the address was?
Or the multifamily?
Yeah.
Oh man, no. But it
So he claimed he had a deal under contract, and it was a small deal, but I did it because of a family member, and it was 43 units. I said, if I like the deal, we'll put up the money, and we'll raise, we'll run the deal. He was overpaying for the deal. He was paying $7 million. It's a small deal, and he was overpaying by like 3.5. And he was using
$3.5 million.
Yeah, he was using a rent
He's
projection.
So doubled. Okay.
Yeah, he was using a rent projection for Wynwood, which you're never going to get there. They had done a really nice rehab on about 50 units around the corner. You can't rent them. The deal he did things like sandwiching the floor joists. The floor is still bowed. Nothing was plumb in it. It was a terrible job. And I literally told him, I said, you did a really nice job putting down the pavers here, but everything else, it's horrible. And the guy had the audacity to send me another deal using the same rents from Wynwood, which I told him, you're never going to get these rents, okay? But guys just get out of their brain.
Because they just want to do a deal, right?
This guy is raising his money from people in California. He's bought some deals. They've all stalled. They stopped. He can't rent his deal. We even called him, posing as a renter. And what he actually answered the phone.
That's intelligent.
And Adrian's like, hello, my name is Senorita Maria, and I want to know what the rent is for a 1-bedroom. And he said, he's like, oh, wow, that's great. Well, it's $1,900. And then he said, well, maybe it's $1,700. I mean, he was all over the place. It was very scary. So this young man is actually coming over to the house tonight for dinner, and we're going to sit down and discuss what his future is. And he's really good at sourcing deals. He went to Gulliver's, which is a really nice private high school.
Absolutely, $50K
and he's got, you name it, every possible connection. He knows everybody. He just needs to slow down because there's no speeding into making money in the real estate business.
How old is he?
29.
Okay.
He's made money. He's bought a couple deals. He's flipped a couple deals. He has made money. Okay? But he's now at the point where he's ready and he's right to go to the next level.
Yeah, so when you say he has made money, so how many units has he done? Like, what's his biggest project that he's done?
So he's done a number of 2 and 3 unit buildings. Cleaned them up.
Yeah.
Sold them very quickly. Rolled the money into a couple other deals. So he's done about 9 deals. Okay, and then he took some of that money and he got into the Forex trading business, and he's actually done well. He says he's done well with it. He says he's done well with it. Unless you're with a top-tier firm that has 200 independent traders, that their drawdown is tied to a bot and it's tied to a dollar amount, and it's got a track record, and the cap liquidity provider is deep, then you don't lose money in that business.
Sure. That's interesting. And I feel like I resonate with that a little bit, or I know a lot of younger people that do, because when you're ready to take that next step, your mind is so, I just want to do a deal. Like, you're so motivated. And
cannot do a deal to do a deal.
There are
guys that are deal junkies. Okay? Forget about it. So I'll tell you, we assembled this block and a half in Miami Beach, across from the convention center, and the market turned, and we had a private REIT debt on it, and I couldn't hold on to it, and I wasn't going to carry it anymore out of my pocket, so I gave it back to the lender. Today, It's about a $750 million project. We put it together for $12 million.
That's insane.
The land that this developer, another big developer, guy from Chicago, Joe Chitrit, you might know him as owning the Sears Tower. I guess it's the Willis Tower now. It's the tallest building in Chicago. He owns it. He owns a bunch of things. He bought it, and he's finishing it, and it's an amazing project. But it was on our approval, our plans.
That's crazy.
So
hindsight, if you were more capitalized or better capitalized, to your point, of
I
a couple of mistakes,
I could have kept it. I could have kept it, but at that point, I wanted to keep the non-development deals. I wanted to keep all of our cash flowing assets and hold on to them versus the development side. So because development is very costly.
Sure, it's a different model, right? Than I already build acquisition, like
super different model, super difficult. Returns are insane.
My mom is developing a 70. My mom's never raised capital in her life. She's starting her own 74 unit project right now in Wisconsin. She's up in Wisconsin.
Nice.
I'm down here.
Nice.
Right. So we're kind of at the, I'm second generation. You said you were third generation. Mm-hmm. Okay. So amazing. You mentioned a family office. You have one. Mm-hmm. I was just at a family office event. So we're kind of heading in the trajectory of what you've already done or what you've already accomplished. So this is an interesting conversation. But that's why we were at that event, is like, where do we go? What are we struggling with? Which direction are we just gonna take this big thing here? But she's never done development, or sorry, she's developed a couple single families, but now she's kind of heading to the next step. I'm involved with that as well. So we're excited to take that next step. We understand it's a way different model. There's probably some things we don't understand. So it's cool to hear you kind of run through.
Do you own the land?
Yeah.
And you have a basis in the land.
Yeah.
You have a value.
Yep.
Okay. And it's fully entitled?
Fully entitled meaning owned outright?
Meaning it's prepared. It's ready to put a shovel in the ground. You have your approvals. Entitlement is approvals.
Approvals is going through process right now.
Build this 74 units, you said?
Yeah, 74.
Build the 74 units.
Yeah.
So the value will go up again when you get that approval.
Sure.
At that point, you'll be able to appraise the site, and you'll be able to go to a construction lender and ask them to give you a loan. They'll probably give you somewhere between 60, 65, maybe 70%. And they're going to base it on total cost.
Sure.
Not loan to value. It'll be total cost of the project. Okay. And then the loan to value won't be able to exceed the total cost. Mm-hmm. So they use two metrics for new construction. But what you can do is you can go out to the equity market and get some pref equity. And there's a small group of pref equity players. There's a guy, his name is Mark Belsky. I'm happy to give you his contact information. He's very good at pref. He does about $500 million to about $750 million a year. He's a small shop. He's in New York. He's a straight shooter, no bullshit. Tell you if he can help you. If he can't, he'll put you in the right direction. And you can lever it up somewhere to 85%. Okay? And then you've got to go back to the community that you're building it in and go back to them for any type of abatement that you can get. You should be able to get something. You're going to have some kind of an affordable, or you're going to do market rate.
I think it's market rate.
Yeah.
It's
do not play in the affordable game.
Really? I hear a lot of people leaning towards the affordability.
Pain in the ass.
Why so?
Because you have so many covenants put on the actual property on the deed. If you're doing what's called a LIHTC deal, which stands for Low Income Housing Tax Credits, LIHTC.
Yep.
Which means you can raise the equity through the syndication of the tax credits. You'll find a tax credit syndicator. But that's going to force you to have come up against a percentage of the units that are rented to 60%, a 70%, an 80, a 90, 100, okay, under the base of AMI, which is average mean income.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to put those units into the marketplace. and you're going to have to put the 60%, the 70s, and it devalues the asset.
Sure.
It gets you to build it. You can take out a bunch of fees up front.
Yeah.
And a lot of these guys that do that, it's more of a model to do a replication model to generate fees.
Sure.
And construction costs.
Sure.
Most LIHTC developers don't keep their properties. They sell them in the first 3 years.
Interesting. Okay.
So there's not a really big long-term play. If you do it in Texas, you do it under the Land Use Act, under the LAURA Act, where the land is leased for 99 years. So it's another way to create more credits. So, I mean, I've done a bunch of those deals. I hate them. Life isn't where you start. Life is where you end. And what people need to do is they need to have a plan. They need to have somebody that's going to be their tour guide. People go to these vacation sites and, they make a plan. People, they make plans for dinner. They make a list for when they go to the market. But do they make a list of how they're going to change their life? Do they make a list of what they're lacking, what they need to do? What we're trying to do is we're trying to give value to the everyday person and teach them that you don't need everything that you think you need to have generational wealth. You can do it this way. True blue, simple. Follow this program, follow what we're doing, become part of us, become part of our community, and we're family. And we all grow together. Since we started our community in the last 90 days, we've closed 14 deals. That's all brand new investors. They know nothing about real estate.
14 student deals?
14 deals.
Wow.
We've closed 14 deals in 90 days.
That's amazing.
We're estimated to do about 50 in total by the end of the year. We have a number on the board. I do analyze most of the deals with my students, with the community. We have a call on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and those calls last for an hour. They're Zoom, and we will structure your deal. We will. We have lenders. We'll help you find an agent. We'll help you show you how to run a property remotely. We'll teach you how to do a Section 8. We'll teach you how to do rent to own. We will teach you a number of different things, and we're trying to do that because we want to make a difference. Okay. We are making a difference in changing people's lives. So, they say that when you help somebody, you're really helping yourself. And I didn't know that I actually had the ability to teach, and I actually enjoyed it, and it's become my passion. And super simple. Just want to make a difference. We get paid, okay? And we tell anybody in the community, we like your deal, we'll co-invest with you. Because quite frankly, we don't see enough deals to put out our capital. That's the problem. But when we know we're teaching somebody something and they're doing it, our investments are small, but we'll co-invest with anybody.
Sure.
So we are doing deals in all over Ohio, Akron, Dayton,
Ohio's
Columbus.
big right now, yeah.
Okay? We're in Lubbock. We're in St. Louis, Missouri. We're in Jacksonville. We're in Louisiana. We're in Mobile, Alabama. We're in Montgomery, Alabama. We're in all these secondary markets or tertiary markets where you can buy something that's under $100K, come in, fix it up with a very nominal $15,000, $20,000, $25,000, put it out with a Section 8 certificate, have cash flow, refinance it, and do it again.
Sure.
So,
well, like my mom too, going to this event, for example, we're in a tertiary market, Stevens Point, Wisconsin, like 60,000 people there, right? And it's so much, even the financing up there is like so much different. Like you get a lot of seller financing opportunities you can't get here. You can get the banks to lend up to 80% LTV on a big, and I'm talking like 50, 60, 70 unit multifamily, which down here you're just never going to find. So going to this event and talking to all these people in like the primary markets or big markets, they're looking at us like, wow, we don't even have the opportunity to do that where we are, whether it be Miami, New York, Chicago, whatever. So I think that there still is so much opportunity out there, like you're saying, to invest in those secondary or tertiary markets. I mean, it's so cool.
There's opportunity everywhere. You just have to find it. I always tell my students, the streets are paved with gold. You just got to go find it. You got to go dig it up, okay? And in the real estate business, it doesn't matter whether it's a good economy. It doesn't matter whether it's a bad economy. It doesn't matter whether rates are high or low. It doesn't matter. What matters is you need to get off your ass and actually get in the business and do something with your life.
Does it matter who's president?
That's probably a hot potato, but I freaking love Donald Trump. I know him. I respect him. Okay, I don't agree with some of the things he says sometimes, but you know, they want to say that he's narcissistic. Well, you tell me one president or one man that's powerful that doesn't have some narcissistic tendencies. This guy's a doer, okay? You may not like him, but the country was in better shape. Our borders were secure. Nobody fucked with us, okay? Now we're the laughing stock of the world. You got this bumbling, dumbling idiot who is, what has he done his whole life? He's been a politician for 50 years. Is he going to pardon his son? Did they prosecute Trump under a misdemeanor, and did they change the law so that it was a crime? Yeah. So I don't even know. What does Kamala Harris stand for? All I ever hear is she talks about, well, my mom bought a house, and sometimes she's talking like she's black or she's Indian or I don't know what she is, or she's Spanish. Okay? Now, I have a friend that knows her, says she's a great lady. I respect this guy because he's been a friend. He's been my personal attorney for 35 years. So I respect what he has to say. And he doesn't like Trump because, it's like polarizing. Some people hate him. Some people love him. Some people dislike her. Some people like her. Okay?
That's right. Like you go down the street, you have half the people with
I don't get it.
Kamala signs. You have half the people with Trump signs. I don't have any sign. You know what I mean?
All right. So here's the key. You own this house. You have equity in it, right? So let's say you have equity of $300,000 in this house. Okay. Did you look at Kamala's tax plan?
It's eliminating capital gains, right?
So there is a clause where it's called unrealized capital gains. And she wants to tax you on that $300,000 of equity, and she wants to charge you 45%.
Unrealized means even if I don't sell the asset
That
or
means,
take a capital event.
Yes. So every teacher that has a 401k or a pension or their own IRA, any gain, you're going to be taxed on.
I think we're leaving America.
Interest, income, you're going to be taxed on.
It's crazy.
So, of course, I don't think it would ever pass, but it would cripple the real estate industry.
Cripple.
Literally. What about the guy that owns a condo that's on a fixed income? How would he handle that? He'd be on the street. So, in my mind, there's only one candidate. And quite frankly, I love this guy, J.D. Vance. He's a tough-ass guy and articulate as hell.
That's amazing. Now, tell me what you think about this. So let's say the borders are open, right? And you own 1,500 units. And you get 1,500 people to come in there and rent these properties that are probably never going to ever own a property or a home in their entire life. That's one of the highest ROIs that somebody could ever have on their real estate investment ever. You got Blackstone, BlackRock, Vanguard, whoever, right? You got all the Grant Cardones, the people that own thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of units. I look at this and like, okay, I understand the border being open, but like to get those people in there, let's say they come over at 50 years, they live till 80, that's 30 years of collectible rent that you're going to get from these people. Do you think that that has a big influence on the borders being open or not? Or how do you see that on the real estate side of things?
I'm not sure I understand your question. How are these people going to pay rent? How are they going to be gainfully employed if they're illegal?
Well, whether it be the government subsidizing them.
So
like
what's the state of California giving people, illegal aliens, $150,000 to buy a home?
Something like that, but they're still
undocumented.
They're still not going to be able to qualify ever.
But they're not violent, right? They're non-violent. Only they're just killing people. So I don't even know what to believe. I don't really
Sure.
I try not to watch the news because I think it's so awful.
I agree.
You know, whatever news station likes Kamala, they hate Trump. Whatever station likes Trump, they hate Kamala. It's, you know, it's really unfair. At least ESPN does not get into politics. You know, at the end of the game, okay, yeah, the Red Sox beat the Yankees 2-1. All right, they scored one more run and they won.
Yeah.
You know, and that real estate business is all based on numbers. It's based on balanced numbers.
Sure.
So
I think regardless of who's president, right, you get out there, you still have the opportunity, like you said, the roads are paved of gold. Go out, make a deal, find that money, make it happen. There's still plenty of opportunity, whether it be Kamala or Trump is what I would say, right? Interesting.
let's hope.
Let's hope.
Let's hope.
Any other big things you want to?
The last thing I would like to say and suggest is that we need to try to be nicer to one another. We need to be gentler with one another. We need to be kinder to one another. We need to actually go out of our way to do simple things, acts of kindness, hold the door for somebody, smile for somebody, and show somebody really true empathy, because you never know whether that person is having a good day or a bad day. You never know if smiling is going to change somebody's life. And I read this book. It was about people who tried to commit suicide jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge. And you served in the military?
Army Reserves.
Army Reserves.
Currently in the reserves.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
So they did this story, and there was a few people that survived, and this was a guy who survived jumping off the bridge. He literally broke everything in his body, but he did survive. And when they went to his apartment, there was a note there in his apartment. And the note was very, very simple. It was a suicide note that he just couldn't, handle things anymore. But he said, when I walk out on the Golden Gate Bridge, because you can't stop your car there, it's very difficult, and you have to walk out. And when you walk out on the Golden Gate Bridge, if somebody waves to me or says hi to me or smiles at me, I'm going to stop and I'm going to try again, and I'm not going to give up. And apparently, nobody did. So the simple act of holding the door and saying hi to a person doesn't cost you anything. So if we were to do that, maybe it would be contagious and maybe it would take effect. And then from there, you guys can figure it out. You don't need me to tell you to be a good person. You need to decide it yourself.
Amazing. Mark, where can they find you on social media, YouTube? In the YouTube description down here, I'm going to put it so that they can go find you.
So my YouTube channel is Mark Shapiro 1887, and we just started doing some long-form content, more informative about deals. My TikTok is at the Mark Shapiro, and my Instagram is the Mark Shapiro. And we are trying to change lives one individual homeowner at a time. You can go to my website. It's M Shapiro Capital, and you can see what we do, and it'll give you a little bit of background on me and on my journey. And I hope you guys have a blessed day.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mark. Great to meet you. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much, Alex.